And away we go.
Awesome. Yeah, we're. What is this? Episode 4?
Numerically, yes. It's the
Yeah.
fifth time we've sat
Yeah.
down and done this,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Because we started with 0. So,
yeah.
but yeah, we got Tom Farley joining us. New
Hmm.
friends
Awesome.
after
Yeah.
Thanksgiving show. I
How was
appreciate you
Start
being here.
how was your Thanksgiving?
These days I just try to get through these holidays. It's just it's so funny is before you didn't know what was going to come out of my mouth, and I had to like comment on everything, and the serenity I have going through, uh, just getting through it, but now able to see just all like just the just nuttiness around, it's just it's fun to kind of be an observer rather than just whatever part I was playing before. So um so I like holidays in that respect. I don't like them because like they're all it's I'm at that age where like my kids don't come home anymore. It's all fractured, and I got to be with like my mom and sister and whatever other stray cat they want to invite. It's not it's never a traditional kind of holiday. We're always something else. And to be honest, I don't think I could handle this if I was in the state I was through earlier holidays. So I gotta be grateful for that, to be able to manage this just weirdness,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know and just be an observer, not a like instigator. So yeah, it's good.
I
So
I tried so hard to instigate by bringing out Cards Against Humanity, and my family just would not have it. And I was like, man. Oh well.
it's funny. So my sister or my mom, it's just my mom, sister, and I for most of the day until people come in, any holiday or whatever. And what they like to do is, as far as cards go, to like kill time, is they play or we play. The card game Skip-Bo.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like a kids game. Yeah, it takes no like you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go, and I'm just gonna let it just happen. And yeah, it really kind of like it kind of grounds you into like But if back in the day, if I took a step back, I'm like, what are you doing? Like my kids laugh at me. I'm like, I'm just trying to get through the day. Just let me have that.
It's euchre at our
My
house.
my little cousins actually. I guess they're technically still cousins, even if they're like my siblings' kids, or well, that's like nieces and nephews, and
Hmm.
then like
Yeah.
cousins' kids, I think are still cousins. Anyway, whatever. But
Yeah.
the younglings
Second
that run
cousins.
around, they're into Uno.
Mm.
Yeah, there
That's
you
their
go.
game.
That's another good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, man, some of those games are just timeless. Like they've been around since like
But like yeah, they have. But yeah, I played it with my kids. But like those, like what you and I mentioned, I can sit there by myself and just get through it. With euchre, that even now would has the ability that could start a fight. Like I got to team up or something. Like I don't think that would be good.
My
yeah,
grandmother is
yeah.
sitting at the table the whole time, like, well, we should really be playing for money. Oh, you guys wouldn't be able to hang down at the club. They would eat you for lunch.
Oh my god, that's
uh,
I was just picturing Tom playing Skip-Bo by himself.
which is fun. No, yeah, you actually need people, but it's actually I do have downloaded euchre, which I play all the time on my iPad, and that's why I've said like I don't think I could now play it not against a bot, because like I'm like happy if I lose, I'm not like screaming at the other person or my teammate. I'm like, this is
Right.
actually good. I
It's
don't think I
not
want
your
to play
purpose.
like live euchre with somebody. Like, let's not do that. I don't think
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked across the table at my brother and I was like, man, why did you play that way? And then realized that it was the point to win, so it didn't matter if we got all 5 or just 3.
Yep.
So that was me working on a 10th step there without him here.
Yeah, no, but I do. I have those arguments with the bot. My bot partner. I'm like, okay, we eventually won this, but like, why did you play that one last? Why didn't you play that before? Like, you know,
Make it make sense.
yeah, like, yeah,
Trying to coach the AI.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you've been in recovery a while.
Yeah.
How long? Out of curiosity.
Yeah, no, in October, end of October was I just 6 years. So just
nice.
got over the 6 year mark. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's yeah, it's not like the the number thing doesn't really affect me, but however, I do love being in meetings with people that have 1 month, 30 years. Like that's what I love about that stuff. For me personally, like like the years I got to think about it and like the nerves, but I love kind of being this mix of all these different levels of recovery. It's pretty cool. That I like.
Yeah. Same.
I like that.
Yeah. I don't like it when it gets too homogenized. You end up hearing the same thing over and over, and it kind of becomes an echo chamber.
Right.
And, it almost feels like it's not genuine at that point. It's like,
well, there is a lot of
to say a certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like for in meetings, there is a lot of that because some people at wherever they are kind of need that structure and they still kind of cling to that kind of I need to control things and like I've learned to accept them too. It's they used to really annoy me. I'm like, just chill. It's just can't change that. So don't except for the fact that we can't. So, but it's pretty funny. Like just really like it is like they cling to it like it's a life preserver. Like it's just like I'll drown without it. It's like no, you won't. But test yourself, push yourself. But yeah, it is always there.
If you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing.
Agreed.
Right.
Well,
yeah,
we talked when we had breakfast the other day. We talked about how there's a lot of tools and things that you learn when you go to meetings, go to treatment, and all of that stuff. But like part of the reason we want to do this and why we had talked about like wanting to kind of collaborate together and really like move forward with this together is all of the stuff that happens outside of that, like for lack of a better word, that bubble, that clinical area of it is what actually happens out in the real world, and how do we make use of those tools, and how do we get on with life? And
exactly, yeah.
It just
feels
like there's a lack of that lived experience and relatable experience, and so I'd love it if you just kind of riff on what things have been like for you in the 6 years of recovery and how things have changed for you and some things you've learned.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, like what was interesting to me, and I have been, since my brother Chris died of a overdose 27 years ago. That's when like I had to that's something you got to pay attention to. So I like, okay, whether you like it or not, your life just changed. So, what are you going to do with this? And, so I've been advocating for, different kind of elements, prevention, things like that for, trying to figure out what fits for me. Cause I liked, just kind of, as I said, using my experience, my brother's story, the thought of using that to help others, prevent them from going through this pain that I was going through. I liked that notion, and so I did that, and it was okay. Um, but as I said before, like I said a lot of times, like during it was many years, 20 years. I I would have those moments where I would like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be drinking either, and you're kind of doing the same thing. So I would go to meetings and not kind of knowing anything about, this thing that we have and in me and my family and, everything else. I just always thought it was about drinking, you shouldn't drink. AA was about not drinking. So I went into meetings. And, I'd like to say it was the same experience that we had in our family, with my little brother. Like we could always point to Chris, the rest of us in the family, and say, well, we're not that bad. So I guess we're okay. There's I could be worse. So like, and it just allowed us to ignore kind of, not be, acceptance and all that kind of stuff. And, so we lived in that for a long time. And, when I was kind of struggling with this myself, like maybe, doing that kind of initial kind of, maybe there's an easier way. So I would go into meetings and I would hear somebody share from across the room and have that same kind of response. Like, well, I don't drink as much as that guy. I don't belong here because my barometer was just drinking. And I would go, a couple weeks and then I just wouldn't go. And, after a long time, I finally got tired again of what it was doing to my life. So somebody that I really trusted and respected said, you should go to a meeting. And I did. And instead of like, hearing how much people drank before, what they were like, whether it was drugs or, whatever their substance was, I was hearing for the first time, and, other parts of their story, like, and connecting to that, like, I hear somebody share, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got broken relationships like that person. I've had job loss like that person, and it was all of a sudden, it was, oh, it was about this. And I started hearing people what they were doing to work on these things. Nobody, once in a while you get people that are white knuckling it, like, I really want to drink this weekend. I'm like, okay, well, let's get you through that, which I love. I love like this group kind of like, yeah, I hear you. But for most of everyone else, at different, as it progressed along, it was about all these other things, the as I said, that I really wanted. It was changing the way I felt, and I realized if I wanted all these things and I wanted to feel this way, there's the only one thing I needed to do was never take a drink again. That was the only part where drinking came into it for me. Is like, if you want all this, this is the ticket. This is the price of admission. Is to this. I'm like, you know what? That's actually for the first time I'm seeing that I'm getting more that I'm giving up. So let's do that. And that the short way around it is like it was changing my perspective to drinking to like, this is how I'm supposed to feel as a human. And then all these little things, things that, like the first time I heard the rigorous honesty, I'm like, oh, what? That's a thing? Like, I'm Irish and I'm a marketing professional, so like the whole world was built around BS. And like I could, like true and authentic, like, okay, if that's a real thing, I think I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so I started to be honest with myself. Gratitude was like, I don't even know what that means. It wasn't part of like I wasn't like I get it. If you asked me what I'm grateful for, I'd have an answer, but I wasn't day-to-day living like this stupid little thing, like like seeing it, like, oh wow, I'm really grateful for that. And then all of a sudden, like, and because me just saying that and focusing on that smallest little thing, in that brief instance, I'm like, wow, I feel different. I feel better. Like that was weird to me, that connection.
Was there like an instance where that you specifically remember that being the first time it occurred to you that that was what was going on? Like I feel like there's moments for me in early recovery where I was like, oh wow, this is actually working. This is actually, I'm actually feeling better. Is there one that stands out to you at all?
Well, as I
Talked
said
about
before, it was just
the
um
culmination of all of it.
well, not the biggest thing for me was um I went through my whole life just with this feeling I had to kind of meet this expectation
Mm-hmm.
that either my parents gave me or I put on myself, and I was kind of living this life, putting this person out to the world that I thought I needed to be, and that who they wanted me to be. And not I wasn't really like, I didn't stop to think about it too much, but like when I did or when I do now, I'm like how I know I didn't feel comfortable like putting that person out
Mm-hmm.
there. And I know Chris, my brother, was the same way, because I now talk in a lot of my talks. I talk about how we could be in the middle of a room or a bar, surrounded by people, making everyone laugh, center of attention, and yet not feel more isolated than if we were standing on the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
But to everyone else looking at it, like, oh my God, Farley's got all these friends. I'm like,
Yeah.
and I could keep their attention and be this person that makes everyone laugh and all that kind of stuff. But why do I feel shitty about that? And so to your question, like when all of a sudden I was out there and I wasn't acting up or performing or being that person, I was trying to be my real authentic self. Not only did that like feel differently,
Mm-hmm.
um, but I also saw that I was actually, attracting more people to me instead of, pushing them away after a time. So that was like people really wanted to be with that authentic person.
Mm-hmm.
The person I was putting out, this inauthentic person, people wanted to be around that person too, because that was interesting. There's a lot of elements there that were me, and they were interesting. But after a while, people were like, okay, we get tired of this act, and they would walk away.
Yeah.
Now I think they want to connect with like me, and that's huge.
Well,
When I started to
I
see
can
that,
kind of relate to that from a perspective of prior to getting clean and prior to COVID. I worked in the service industry. I
yeah,
bartended, and so I always saw it as a kind of a transactional thing. So like
yeah,
I was very performative, and I made a great bartender because I could entertain in very short bursts.
yeah.
I
Well,
had all the one-liners. I could get you to smile, get you to feel welcome, and then I was on to the next person. Like it was very transactional. It was always very short, and there was never any substance. And
well, I mean, maybe person to person, but you were like, I don't think your shift was like a half hour. It was probably like all night long, and so
right,
you're doing that, and you're like, you're not conscious about it, but you're not feeling good about that,
Right.
maintaining that. The efforts it took to maintain this, like, whatever I want to see was hard, and it had the effect, like as I said, it didn't make me feel very good, and so
Hmm.
the only solution I had, the only it was to do unsafe. I need to.
Yep.
I drank just because, like, at least I can. It gets me through this.
Yeah.
You know
Mm.
Yeah.
that was.
Yep.
I got to be this person. Then this is the way I'm gonna. This is the only way I know, like, I can get through it. Is to do
Well,
this.
and being drunk for me at least made it easier to be that person. It made it
Mhm.
easier to be myself or talk to people or
Yeah.
and I convinced myself of that where it's like, okay, yeah, I have to have this in order to do this thing where I feel uncomfortable doing it. You know what I mean?
But yeah,
Uh,
and to go back to an earlier point I started to make was that once in recovery and starting to work on these things like rigorous honesty and gratitude and humility, it hit me that and like I like that, like, this is, yeah, this is good, these things help me. Then I realized quickly that, like, oh my god, for all these years I was putting this person out that wasn't real.
Yep.
And it dawned to me, like if you had asked me throughout that, like, do you value honesty? Of course. Do you value humility, being humble? Absolutely. Do you value gratitude? Yeah, those things are very important to me. But I suddenly realized in recovery that the person I was putting out to the world wasn't a real person. It wasn't me. Obviously, it was somebody else that I had created. And the next thought was, like, there was no way that person was ever going to be completely honest or humble or grateful, because it wasn't a real person. It was a role I was playing. And so the times that I showed gratitude or humility or honesty, that was almost like playing a role too. It wasn't real deep, or it wasn't, I learned how to kind of play those too, the motions. Those weren't real either.
mm,
That yeah, that was like, God, man. No wonder I was like, not only me not feeling good about it, but no wonder, but like people eventually after a time, like, just, you know, went on to, something else. Yeah. So, but yeah, I love that. As I said, like, I went through life, a good person. I have values and all that kind of stuff, but it wasn't my authentic self, and it wasn't those things, those emotions, you know, when you really get into it, like, they're positive. Even the negative things have a positive effect on you,
absolutely.
you know. So, like if I was sad or uh like fearful or all these kind of things, I didn't I didn't feel those and express those. Those all came out singularly as like anger or frustration or anger.
Hmm.
And even though what I was really feeling was sad,
Right.
because I hadn't really kind of, you know, understood those emotions, but I understood happy, and I understood, anger, like, and I would ping pong between the two.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, like, when I'm feeling now when I'm feeling sad, and I was like, oh shit, you're sad. I feel good about that. Like, just even though it's sadness and I'm sad about something, I'm like, I feel good because it's like I'm that's the right emotion, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Well, and coming to the understanding that it will pass as well,
Yeah.
not just to recognize it, but recognize that it's not
Right.
forever.
Yep.
Whereas for a long time, for me anyway, there was a certain desperation in the sorrow where it's like, this is just how I feel for the rest of my life. And you know what I mean?
And the flip side of that is what recovery taught me is, as we like to say, substance use, mental illness, all these things, these are what we call diseases of isolation. Like everyone knows that. Oh yeah, I've heard that. And we're talking about that, but we don't seem to talk as much at all, or at all, about the other side of that coin, which is you don't heal in isolation. It demands connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going through life, isolated. Even though I was social, I had a big family, I had all this kind of stuff, but internally, I was in a constant state of isolation, and fear and all those things. And just going to meetings and being in a room, as a guy, sharing your emotions, like, you learn that you get over that fear, for one, and the second thing is, like, I could never do this alone.
Yep.
I need these people, whether it's people in a room talking about recovery, or just now I'm at work, talking about, if I'm frustrated on something that happened at work, I say I'm frustrated, and I'm being honest and genuine about it. And like the response I get, and the people, like, that's what they want. And so we connect. And so, yeah, I don't know how I would ever have learned that.
So I read this morning on the internet. Imagine that. Mutual aid is not rooted in generosity, it's rooted in community. I don't like when people see community building as selfless. Building community is necessary for both of us. It's crucial to your survival today, and it might be crucial to my survival a different day. And I think that's the beauty of meetings inherently, is that, I don't need a meeting every day, but when I do, there's one there. And I chair a meeting that I go to every week that I may not need, but those people desperately need it
Yeah,
when I'm
yeah, I love
there,
that.
you
Yeah.
know. And sometimes I need it more than they do, so.
Yeah.
Or, like, it's what's really funny is you go to a meeting, and a lot of times it's not, if it's not your home group, it's when you go to a lot. So you know a lot of people. And I remember somebody comes in, maybe it's even a new person or somebody that, talks about something that is just, like, not even close. You're like, I don't really want to talk about this. Like, I had such a bad week, and I wanted to drink. And like that is so, like, not like I don't have those issues. And early on, I would, like, oh Jesus, really? And I would kind of chalk that meeting off as, well, this was an hour wasted. Luckily for me, quickly, because I stuck to it, I went to it, and those thoughts quickly kind of, like, now I'm like, whatever it is, it's like that person needs us, and whatever. As you were saying, like, it's yeah, it's that community that feels good,
Mm-hmm.
So,
One,
because I'm sure I've said some stupid things too, like, like, and people like, oh really, here he goes, like, I was never going to be aware of that, but
one, the thing with especially those meetings where I've been in the same seat where it's like, oh man, I've heard this or I've heard somebody say that, and earlier on in my recovery, when I kind of got past that being early in recovery, and I started to fool myself into thinking, like, oh, I've got some time under my belt, right? And oh, I've heard this before, and I started having that voice going on in my head. um, I started to have those thoughts of, like, oh, this meeting, and had the same kind of thing happen, where then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, these folks were where I was at, like they've got exactly the same thing going on that like I was them. And so it wasn't like a light switch went off, but there was a change that happened, and my perspective switched, and that self-centeredness changed from being my problems, my reality, my situation, to, well, this is an opportunity for me to maybe share something helpful. And maybe the reason I'm in this meeting today isn't to talk about my load of crap that's going on. Maybe I'm in here to be able to share something to help this person out.
Right.
Maybe their load of crap is a little bit more important than my load of crap today.
Yeah.
And so,
well, for me, to what you're talking about, like I didn't know what it was first. I knew, like, okay, I was feeling differently, and that, I wasn't, those, the conversations in my head were stopping, like, oh, this is the dumbest, share I've ever, like, I don't hear those, that guy's not there anymore screaming at me. But, so I knew that I was feeling differently, and, being more present in meetings because of it, until I actually could put a label at it. And you kind of did, but like I said, like when I realized what it was, which was ego, when I realized all these things was about me, that like, clearly that was, that's why, you get in these meetings, you talk about how you need to control things or control all your life, all this kind of stuff. Like, well, it comes down to that's what it is, ego based. Another thing I struggled with early on was, it was pretty funny. I came in with them. So all my life I've been, a Catholic. I still am. I go to church every Sunday. And when I first came into a couple of meetings, and they read the 12 steps, and I was like, oh, sweet, I only have to learn 11 of them. I already got one. Because I like a lot of people say, well, yeah, this is a religious program. I thought it was too. And I'm like, well, that works for me. Until I realized it absolutely isn't anything close to that. And my first thing was like, first of all, this is Madison, Wisconsin. And so I remember the first time hearing somebody across the room going, well, my higher power is like nature, and I feel different when I'm in nature, and I give up things to nature. And I'm across the room early on with the voice in my head going, no, you're totally wrong. No, that's not.
You're a witch.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Witch.
Be gone, druid. So, and then, but then the more I listened and heard them talk, I'm like, oh, I can see that. And then I realized, like, I was bringing my faith into this, and that was, like, could this help, have the reverse and help that? Yeah, and it has. But my faith doesn't, like, for instance, like, when I prayed before, I prayed for things. Like, I prayed for a better job. I prayed for, like, can I have just a little bit more money? Whatever. I prayed for things that was all ego based, wanting things. And a couple years into recovery and working this concept of a higher power, now it's not asking for things. It's just please take this. Whatever my higher power is, whatever, just like, I can't do this alone. And that shift from this ego-based even concept of a higher power to more of a, giving this up,
Yeah.
That was pretty powerful. That was pretty good.
It's less about want and more of, like, just requesting leniency. You know what I mean?
Well,
yeah, exactly. But like it's funny, like that whole concept of want, to to manage your emotions or situations. That's it. It just replaces one with another.
And I
Before
think
I
it's a shift
was,
from
drinking, and now, okay, I don't have
material.
drink anymore. So I'm like, now, like, but I still need things to make me feel better.
Yeah,
And I was even like turning to my higher power, like, I need this because I don't feel very good.
yeah.
And that wasn't working either.
I
So,
think it's that shift from the external, something external to something internal,
Mm-hmm.
like an understanding or a connection, um, rather than I need something else outside to help me better understand or grasp or whatever. Um,
Yeah, like for me personally, it's meditation. I meditate every morning, religiously, you might say.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I like that.
but
That'd be
some
nice.
but some days, like yesterday, Friday, I woke up to an alarm and I had to throw on a pair of pants and a shirt and get right to my computer, and I did not meditate, and it kind of threw my whole day off. Like I didn't accomplish nearly as many things as I wanted to, and I just felt like I was dragging, like I wasn't there. So, I mean, you have to have room for that spirituality, I think, in order to have any program work, whether it is, uh, Catholic Church or, meditating or, you know,
Well, like,
being out in nature.
what's your point? Like, as I said, I could be, doing all those things, even being out in nature and, or just going right to work and, and that didn't help me, you know, get out of this sense of isolation.
Mm-hmm.
All these things, I could be out in the world, but I'm still isolated. So even when I'm at, all alone out in nature or meditating, I'm not isolated anymore because I'm making a connection to something,
Right.
that that's the thing. It's for us, like the biggest thing is to stop going through life totally disconnected and isolated. And at its very worst, and again, I think there's a comfort level in isolation briefly until it's not, until it feels like you know I don't this isn't good. So even in our when we are alone, or like at our at a point of isolation, what this program is this recovery has taught me is, like, you don't have to be.
yeah.
You can connect to at least to a higher power.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting that you bring that up. In the interview that you did with your friend Nick,
Mm-hmm.
he made a distinction between the word isolation and solitude. And
Yeah.
I found that
Yeah.
interesting because what I wanted to comment, actually, and so I'm glad you brought it up, is, and I hope, Nick, you're watching this, is that for me, what I think of when I think of isolation is it's a conscious decision to, or even a subconscious decision to kind of wall off
Yeah.
our conscious mind from our environment. It's intentionally secluding ourselves from our environment, whereas the opposite of that, and choosing to be alone,
Mm-hmm.
and um, uh, but still present in our environment,
Sure.
is not necessarily isolating,
Right.
because you could be alone in nature and commune with nature, and you're not
Yeah.
isolating.
Well, I think the important distinction for me is that I've learned to appreciate myself. So it's
Right.
no longer
Yeah.
isolating from my emotions. I'm here,
Yeah.
being okay being me. And so
Yeah.
when I'm alone, it's not like, oh man, I'm alone.
Yeah.
It's like that solitude concept where it's like,
Mm.
Well, I'll give you, like, it personally for me, like, most, probably my whole family is, when when we're like, I do a ton of public speaking, and I get out there and people say, "Oh, you're such an extrovert." It's like, I absolutely not, to be honest. But when I'm there, I do need attention. I do need connection, and I give 110%. I'm like all in, present, like making everyone in the room feel great. Not just I need to be connected to them. I want to hear their story, like all that kind of stuff. But after that's exhausting, and I need to kind of step away and recharge my batteries. I need to walk away. A lot of people's like you need a hobby. It's like that would make it worse if I had a hobby. Like I go, maybe I need more balance in the stuff that I do, but I need some way to recharge. And for me, that's just like not being around people, because I go all in. But when I do that, I need to find a way to stay connected. It's okay. You're being alone to kind of balance out what you just put yourself through, but don't be in danger of that growing into an isolation. So yeah, which is what I did before. And that's when I would like drink and whatever. But now I can be alone and yet, just, do something to feel that I'm not in isolation. Yeah.
Yeah. I still to this day think that that's the greatest gift that quitting alcohol has given me is myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had myself fooled into thinking I was this full on 100% extroverted person, and that's just who I was. And turns out I was just afraid to be alone. And,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
forced myself into this perpetual cycle of like having to always be around social situations, and in order to do so I had to always be on substances.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. And I know I think I even had some moments talking to Chris about it, but I certainly felt it, is that, at some level, we are in this constant state of kind of needing this constant affirmation of, people like you're good, your people like you, and that's fine. But first of all, as I said before, they're they're saying what, they're connecting to somebody that isn't real, for one. So well, then when you isolate that, that's all gone. All the external people saying, "Oh, well, yeah, you're so funny, you're great, this is so much fun." Now you're alone, and that's shut off, because we don't know how to do that for ourselves.
Right.
We don't know how to do that. Be that person, like, what, you give yourself some grace and some, gratitude of, like, you did this. Like, yeah, I didn't have that at all. I didn't, and I'm struggling with it. I'm still trying to build it. This, like, initially there was this fear, like, if I put this real person out, like, what's if people don't like that person? And then I'm like, oh shit, what's if I don't like that person?
Yeah.
And my first thing was, in showing this world my authentic self, was to get over that fear, that, and self-doubt. That was my first kind of battle. And to the point where, like, now when I talk, I say that recovery exists, just on the other side of fear, because I found that out myself. Like, and when I start to feel that come back, that fear and self-doubt, I'm like really in tune to it now. I'm like, okay, you got to get to a meeting or call somebody. You know what you got to do, because now I know what to do.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. That's very, very true, and one of those like hard learned lessons, because it's just like one of those put your helmet on and grin and bear kind of things. That
Yeah, and it's funny, the pain and discomfort, that we think is going to happen if we do this, because our minds are way out in front of us. Um,
Yep.
we need to learn to just lean into it and just do it. And then we come out the other side. I'm like, that wasn't so bad. I actually feel pretty good about this. Like, but like we didn't know that. We can't say like, if I do this, I'm going to feel much better. We don't. We're like, this is I'm going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to be hard.
Right.
Yeah, Seneca said we often suffer more in imagination than we do in reality.
I mean, I do constantly.
I know. It's and it's so true. It's suffering needlessly because you're suffering before the suffering.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, so I wanted to circle back and touch on something you talked about, which is the connection and the community stuff. It's another thing we had talked about a little bit in building this. The beyond the podcast stuff is kind of the bigger picture of what we're looking to do, and wanted to just kind of pick your brain a little bit about some of the things that you see in the greater recovery community as far as places that you've gone and people you've spoken to, that events and networking things that you've seen working that are getting people together, as far as bringing people together hobbies wise or whatever, that are bringing people together to
things that people can get involved in.
Sure. Well, I mean, first of all, like,
that's what I'm here for. That's why they pay me big bucks.
I'm good at words.
I mean, first of all, everyone is recovering from something. Yeah. For us, it's a common thing, but like it's everyone, and it's not so much this notion of recovery from something. It's, you can flip it around and say everyone needs connection. Everyone needs some level of connection. And we all just had this global event where it really kind of nailed home this, like, we're not supposed to feel this way. COVID put us all into this disconnection and isolation, and like we struggled. We didn't, we saw, just going, we saw the people getting kicked out of Walmart or off a plane. Like, it wasn't pretty. We didn't like that feeling. So I think there's this, it's not so much this notion of recovery. To me, it's about connection, and so these, on one level, there you've got sober events, but again, it's not about drinking, not drinking. It's about connection, not connection, to me. And so when you look more broadly on that kind of stuff, there is, because we're talking about this thing, and now we kind of suffered through this isolation, on our own in private because it was personal. But now, as I said, post-COVID, it's like at least we all have that in common. That sucked. So let's let's redefine all of this connection thing, so and just make valuing that. I do talks to companies, talking about that, all the stuff that we were talking about, the connection inside of companies. And companies have this laser focus on, like, the bottom line and what they're doing, the service they're delivering or product they're building, and that that's necessary. But you've got, like, you're employing people, and you're calling it a human resource. It's one of your most valuable assets, but you're just for years we were just trying to get as much as we can out of that asset, and to the point where, like, when I started my career, there was a whole and still to this day, talk of this work-life balance. You have to have a balance between work and your regular life. and that made sense to me. But like now, it's like it's not, because that forced you into like you're this person when you went to work, and then when, like you're home now, you're this person, and that's not, that isn't true. Like you're the same person, and so companies and communities need to kind of take people as they are in their wholeness, like not expect them to be a certain way over here and a certain way over here. Like it's the same person. That's why we start to struggle, is because we got to turn off, turn on all the time. And if we would just, no matter where we went, we're embraced, in this sense of belonging as who I am wherever I go is great. That's the ideal. Now, we got a lot of work to do, but I love that we're talking about that.
Yeah.
So
quite a bit of work to do.
yeah.
I
Well,
agree,
it's what I love to feel like there's when you talk about like this beautiful, wonderful state that we live in, we have this DNA that, and maybe it's, a greater Midwestern thing, but like this whole thing is like, more than anything else, we value being nice to each other.
for the
Even
most
though
part.
a lot of times that means just face to face, but like behind, like we're assholes everywhere else, like that, that we're just going this deep. Like the real work is down here. Like I expect you to be nice to me, like, but I would rather you like really care about me, like, because I want to care about you, and that's hard for us, especially here in Wisconsin. That's just not
Fun
our
fact,
thing.
it's exactly like that in Michigan as well.
Yeah.
So
Midwest nice.
it's a thing.
Yeah. And we just, it's our comfort zone, it's our coping mechanism, and like we're really good at being these great, everyone loves us from Wisconsin. Wherever we go, like, oh, Wisconsin, what a great state. But like when you live here, it's like, I want more. Like,
Well, I think it's maybe a byproduct of the drinking culture is everybody's drinking buddies.
Yeah.
And so you don't really get to know each other. You just kind of
Right.
surface level pals.
Yeah, it's easy to be like these. Like, how many times did you walk into like some like random bar and all of a sudden you're surrounded by like these are the best people in the world. I love you. These are my friends. Like, you don't even know these people.
Yeah, how many Facebook friends I have from that over
Oh
the
my,
years.
yeah.
It's wild.
Like, how do I even know you?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Hey,
Yeah.
we met at a bar one time. Let's be Facebook friends for life.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The curse of our generation.
But yeah, I mean, it's.
And then like my favorite is like, then you like see them again in person, like a year or two later, and they're like, hey Tom, it's Bill. It's like, that's Bill. That's all you're gonna give me, Bill. Like, when was the last time you saw me?
Perfect.
Like 2 years ago? Like,
I used to go to a lot of raves, so I met people all over the Midwest, and I would have that where 10 years later somebody would come up, oh, don't you remember I met you in Chicago this one? I am like, okay.
I requested Darude Sandstorm.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, yeah. Was I nice to you? I guess that's always my next question when I meet somebody
I don't.
I can't remember.
Probably.
And my first thought is selfish. How did I behave?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, well. I don't have that problem anymore. I know how I behaved.
Yeah. So.
Right. Oh, that's I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. That definitely is one big advantage of knowing who I am now. As I don't have to approach with caution. So, we have talked for a bit. You got anything that you want to cover that we haven't hit on yet?
Well, As I said before, I really love this. Was a great conversation. I think we need to be do this more. And I'll put myself out to you guys to like whenever you want to have like a talk. This is I love this. This is great. So I'm sure we'll think of things we didn't say and find an
Yeah,
opportunity to say. So let's do that. But I
absolutely.
think what's really neat for me was in my journey, I should say, like as I said, everything kind of changed 26 years ago. Um, and that's when I started, luckily for me, as I said, I knew one thing more than anything else, and that was if I am going to ever, deal with this loss and this grief, whatever I was feeling inside, um, the only thing I knew I had to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so I went out into schools but all those years, as I said, that I was talking about it, it was helpful for my loss. But again, I was talking about somebody else's story, somebody else's addiction, probably help people. But then I got into this, myself, into recovery. And now I'm talking about me and connecting, my story and it's connecting with people like we're doing right now. And like, like I walk, this is different. People want to hear about me. They don't want to hear about my brother. I'm like, instead of being somebody's brother, I get to be me again, and that feels awesome. So that's part of my journey. And then, I about 3 or 4 years ago, I said, I was helping people as an advocate, circling at 30,000 feet. But then I had an opportunity to work at a treatment center at Rosecrans down in Rockford, Illinois. It was the Wisconsin rep, and that felt really great, getting people into treatment, and that's been wonderful. Um, but it wasn't, as I said, I love talking to everyone, and I just had this one treatment place, and they did great, amazing work. But I was, a lot of people have different needs. It's sort of not one place doesn't help the same people. So, and I was here, I was getting people help, but into one place, and again, it got me. It felt good and it got me down the road. But then this opportunity came up just this year, earlier, a couple months ago, at a tech startup here in Madison. Um, it's a website, but it's called recovery.com. And um, when I first sat down with the founders and the people who run it, that created this website, that they saw that, first of all, when people are looking for help, they Google it, what sort of treatment facilities near me, and they're
Yeah.
Googling it, and you don't know what you're getting back.
Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, so they're like, all right, let's do a real, like, throw, just everyone, every treatment center is on there for free, and it's there, and you don't pay to get a higher listing. It's Here's what it is. And they create these drop down menus, like, if I want a 12-step program, or I don't have an alcohol issue, but I got an opioid problem, or I have a mental health thing, and really hone in on what you need. And so when I sat down with these two guys, they said, yeah, great website. We built this thing, and it was called, Rehab Path before. And then last December, a year ago, now they said, we had an opportunity to buy the domain name recovery.com, which it was expensive, but we did it. And it had a dramatic effect on our business, which was great. But all of a
Yeah.
sudden, it hit us like, and these are guys that are not in recovery, the guys that started this. And they all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, we own recovery.com. Like, we have to honor that. And like, we got to be this to everyone. We're going to get these people come to us. So we need to be that place, and we need to kind of be. And when I heard him say that, I'm like, oh my God, I got to work for you guys. Like, that's amazing, you know? And as I said to him, like, it's a great resource for treatment and outpatient, and they want to grow into sober living, peer support, which is awesome. I'm like, but for me, treatment is that's just the front door. Like recovery is like if you really want to be recovery.com, first of all, I mean, you need people in recovery that understand this and want to be there for people. So, and I think we're going to, that's the direction we're going to grow in as we grow the front end of just breaking down the barriers for people seeking treatment. That's great. But this whole back end of recovery is just going to be amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as I said to him, what's amazing to me is you built this website in Madison, Wisconsin. Like if you had done this website in any other Ohio or California, it would be helpful and a good resource. But the fact that you did it here in Madison, the way we do things, as I said, there's a good side to this DNA that everyone likes us, and we do it. And you're going to employ people from around here building this, and it's true. I've never had a corporate culture like I'm experiencing now in my life.
Yeah.
And so it's like this couldn't happen any other place. But
there
Madison
is a real and dedicated community of people here in Madison to recovery, who want to help recovery, who want to build recovery communities, and you don't see that everywhere. You really don't.
No, as a matter of fact, as I travel around the state doing my talks, there's a lot of resources down here in Madison and over in Milwaukee and stuff like that. And then you think of Wisconsin in all its Wisconsonness up in the upper part of the state where there are no services. There are no, hardly any treatment centers.
But it's pretty thin.
But you know what they do have, as you just said? What shocked me is they all, these little towns, we don't have services, treatments, a big hospital, but we have a recovery community. We have these amazing meetings. And I was like, God, am I ever going to be able to go up north again? That was my favorite place on earth to drink, and one of Rob, a really good friend of mine that works at a clinic here in Madison, goes up there and goes, "Are you kidding me? That's my favorite place because of the recovery community. There's just so many great." I'm like, what?
I almost went to Menominee this week to go to a live meeting for the people who host the Saturday online that I do. It's but I was like 3 hours.
It's a little much. So that's really neat. I was happy. As I said, there may not be services, on the treatment side of things, but the recovery community is strong. No matter where you go, and all you got to do is find one other person, and you're good to go. So.
Well, we could take the show on the road. Make a weekend.
I love that. Yeah.
We could do that sometime.
See if Andrew will host us up there.
Yeah. We'll figure it out.
Just rent a conference center, put it on the Discover card. It'll be
okay.
Don't laugh. I mean, that's.
But
that thought, I did traveling roadshow thought, I love that. But
I love that idea. So. Well, and I know, the guys over there at your place, Tom, at recovery.com, they want you to get a show started. So, maybe we can do a dual show weekend sometime up there.
100%. I love all those ideas. Yeah.
But I truly do appreciate you making some time on the weekend for us.
Well, thanks for having a place to have this conversation. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm gonna feel great about it all the rest of the day. This was good.
I
loved it.
We will link recovery.com down below, as well as realworldrecovery.net, which is our website.
Yeah.
And like you say, we'll do a lot more of these. And I definitely look forward to building out the community because, like you say, recovery happens after the initial stuff, and that's where all the tools get put to use. As
I say, it's two different things. Treatment and recovery are kind of connected, but they're two different things. I used to tell people the clinicians at where the treatment residential place that I worked at down Rockford is like, you're doing great work. You're saving lives. You're getting people kind of back on their feet. But like, if you're not sending them out our back door with this notion of this is rest of life and this is going to be amazing, now you have this chance of this amazing life. Like before you came to our front door, your community written you off, your family's written you off, you wrote yourselves off. That's gone. That's behind you now.
Yeah.
But but it's still there. But like now, there's this amazing opportunity, and that's what I think is what we're doing. Let's just talk about recovery, like, and how different life is, just
Yeah.
being in recovery. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think it's pretty great, but that's just me.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right, fellas.
I really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Thank you
I
again,
can't wait to
Tom.
do it again.
All of you out there in YouTube land, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can get alerted when there's new content. If you start doing a YouTube channel, Tom, I'll link that down below as well. But
Yeah.
other than that,
I have a YouTube channel and it's got all sorts of like stuff that it's funny. I don't like, during COVID, I went downtown to like some of these restaurants that were trying to like get business back on the door. So I'm like, well, how about if I come in? I had a videographer come in and film me and like, cutting a steak, at Tornado, and like eating it. Like, you should come down here. I ate so well that last meal. It was great. Like, they're buying this. Like, yeah, they do business. Like, this is awesome. They're all up there. It's
I
great.
mean, we can link that. That's
Did you
no
call
problem.
it Foodie Farley?
No, I don't know what we call it. It was just kind of, we were just trying to promote, kind of downtown Madison, and get people back into restaurants and all. Yeah, it's just me. I had a great time.
Well, we can link it. Yeah, we'll do that.
No, I'm
Awesome.
hungry.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Yeah, appreciate
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.
it. Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
All right, later.